All right, time for a 49ers update, the first one of Eagles week. A little bit of a surprise roster move for the 49ers, but they had to make one because George Odom was going to go on injured reserve with a torn biceps muscle from the game against the Seahawks. The 49ers have activated rookie edge rusher Robert Beal Jr., former teammates of Eagles pass rusher Jalen Carter. So on that same defensive line, Robert Beal Jr., though, is a much smaller, more athletic player. He's very, very athletic, got a lot of twitch coming off the edge. He had a hamstring injury in training camp, so the 49ers put Beal on injured reserve. He was the third player on injured reserve. The 49ers had a trio of those guys that had their practice windows open 3 weeks ago. Two of them had already been activated. And now Robert Beal Jr., he was the final one to be activated. And it didn't seem like the 49ers would activate him, at least before the game against Seattle. Today was the deadline. You have 3 weeks to do it. So these guys can practice for 3 weeks. And then you have to activate him to the 53-man roster, or you have to shut him down for the season. And the thought was that Beal might be a little bit more of a project for the 49ers, and they wouldn't have room for him because they were generally healthy everywhere else, and they would just shut him down on this day. But the 49ers had an extra roster spot, so they activated Robert Beal and slotted him in, as I will show you right here. So here's Beal. He's in that depth 4 injured reserve category. We can go ahead and erase his name from there, and we can move him to the 53-man roster right here at the outside edge rusher Leo position. As you can tell, the 49ers now have 12 defensive linemen on the 53-man roster. I've already moved George Odom to injured reserve down here, which I put Robert Leo. It's going to be Robert Beal Jr. There, that's better spelling. I've already moved George Odom to injured reserve, so there are 53 spots filled now, and the 49ers still have one practice squad spot left. Last I heard, they wanted to sign Jason Verrett, but Verrett might be holding out for an active roster spot. They worked out, the 49ers did, Anthony Averett today, the former Alabama cornerback who was with them for about 2 weeks during training camp. Played for Baltimore and the Raiders, 4.4 40 guy, maybe a 4.36 40, Anthony Averett coming out of the draft in 2018. Perhaps he can fill in at depth for safety. You're probably wondering, well, how do the 49ers fortify safety since they've lost 2 of them, Talanoa Hufanga and George Odom, in 1 week? Well, obviously you have Jair Brown and Tashawn Gibson. Those are your 2 starters now. For the third safety on game day, the 49ers might be signaling with this move of Robert Beal Jr., the defensive lineman, to the 53. They might be signaling that Taylor Hawkins, who's been on their practice squad for a couple years now, former San Diego State corner, they might be saying that this guy is available to flex up as one of their practice squad elevations for the week. So that's how the roster might work if they do sign somebody like Anthony Averett. Averett, I looked it up, has played 2 snaps in his career way back in 2018 as a safety. He's mainly a corner, but that does show that he's done emergency safety work before. So perhaps the 49ers insulate the depth that way. But I think that this is a sign that they believe in Taylor Hawkins, at least as a practice squad flex up. And obviously, Robert Beal Jr. can do some work for the 49ers. Check this out. This is Beal's athleticism profile. I'm not talking necessarily on defense. I know the 49ers are chock full of defensive ends and defensive linemen right now, but you never know who's going to get hurt moving forward. And if you didn't activate Beal today, he wouldn't be available at any point to be a reinforcement. Look at this athletic profile for Robert Beal. 40-yard dash. That was a 4.48, 98th percentile in the 40-yard dash. Good burst. The arm length, also really good, 86th percentile. The broad jump, 85th percentile, 123 inches for Robert Beal Jr. You know what I'm thinking? George Odom was a great special teams player. Somebody with this kind of athletic profile like Robert Beal might be able to do something for the 49ers on special teams right away. Again, he's got the 4.4 40 at 247 pounds. He's got a nice big long reach. You just want athletes on special teams, as evidenced by Darrell Luter Jr., as evidenced by this right here. We like to check out this play from Darrell Luter Jr. If I could get it up quickly. If I could get it up quickly, we're putting it up. The Luter against the Seattle Seahawks was something absolutely special. Unfortunately, I don't think that I have it at the ready disposal just right now. I have a lot of videos on here, and that one was added a little bit later on, so it's probably way down at the bottom of the pile. I wanted to show you Darrell Luter Jr. chasing down D. Eskridge in one of the more impressive plays that you'll ever see on special teams. He was coming from the opposite side of the formation, and boy, on a dead sprint, he was able to cross the entire field and chase down D. Eskridge on special teams for the 49ers against the Seattle Seahawks. And, for a team that lost George Odom, who's look, I think I might have gotten it. Here it is. Perseverance pays off. Here you go. Top right. Let's go back here. Do you see that circle? Coach Yak put this up on Twitter. Top right. That is Darrell Luter Jr. Watch him run on this kickoff. There goes the boom. It's going to be into that left corner. 49ers trying to seal it off way sooner than the 25. They can't, but there's Darrell Luter Jr. crossing the whole field, making the rundown. George Odom led the league in special teams tackles last season. He was number 2 this season. You could always use more big quality bodies on special teams to be able to throw themselves into the mix. I'm not saying that Robert Beal Jr. would be able to play a Darrell Luter role. Darrell Luter Jr. is somebody that's obviously a DB. He's lighter and faster. But the 49ers have the number 25 ranked special teams unit, and they want to make sure that they're getting better in that phase of the game. And for that, you're going to need bodies. 49ers practice today. They look relatively healthy. Spencer Burford was back out at practice for the 49ers. Aaron Banks played against Seattle, so you'd expect in the practice he was there. It was a bonus practice, though. Light bonus practice for the 49ers. The first practice in earnest for Philadelphia is going to be on Wednesday. The 49ers are up to 2.5-point favorites against the Philadelphia Eagles. This, I saw on the internet, is the first time since the AFL-NFL merger that a 10-1 team has been a road underdog. Philly is 10-1. The 49ers are 8-3. So isn't that something? I mean, I'm going to get into this over the course of the week, why that's the case. But Philadelphia, first of all, they are one of the worst 10-1 teams in history, DVOA-wise. They're one of the worst, I would say, 10 teams or so DVOA-wise. That's defense adjusted value over average for being a 10-1 team. Football Outsiders posted that today. They're a mediocre defense so far this year, while the team that they're playing, the 49ers, has been a juggernaut on both sides of the ball over the course of the past 3 weeks, especially. 49ers number 1 offense on the season, number 8 defense on the season, but more like the number 2 or number 3 defense over the past couple of weeks. So because of that, the sharps, as you would say in Las Vegas, the odds makers have the 49ers as favorites to open. I think it was about 1.5 when it first opened up yesterday. And obviously a lot of money has been coming in on the 49ers. They're up to 2.5-point favorites against Philadelphia, which is a historic situation. The Eagles 10-1 underdogs at home to the 49ers. Meanwhile, the talking has resumed. Remember the 49ers and the Eagles talked a whole bunch last year? It was mainly the 49ers after the game. Some might have thought that it sounded like sour grapes, but the 49ers were upset that they lost their quarterback and they didn't have a fair shot to beat the Eagles. The Eagles gave them a hard time for continually bringing this up, but then for months, the Eagles complained about the turf in the Super Bowl, saying that it was too slippery for their pass rush to get against the Chiefs, and they weren't able to sack Patrick Mahomes a single time. Either way, I think it's the nature of sports. If you lose a tough game and there's an extenuating circumstance that you feel adversely affected your team, hell yeah, you're going to talk about it. So both the 49ers and the Eagles felt wronged in at least some way by the time that this was all said and done in the 2022 season. And Hassan Reddick, after the Eagles beat the Buffalo Bills, spoke in the locker room after being asked a question about the 49ers, and here is what he had to say.
You guys got the 49ers next. I know you just got done playing, but they did a lot of talking in the offseason about what happened in the NFC Championship game last year. How much of that has stayed in the back of your mind ahead of next week?
As this season been going on, not much. Talk is cheap. They get to come back in the link. There was a lot of boo-hoos last year, a lot of crying, a lot of what if, a lot of this, a lot of that. They get a chance to come back in here, line that up and prove it again.
Damn right, the 49ers do have that opportunity to line it up and prove it again. I don't think he worded Reddick. I don't think Reddick worded that correctly. I don't think the 49ers proved anything last year after Brock Purdy got hurt. They want a chance to prove it again because their first chance kind of blew through the cracks there with Brock Purdy getting hurt, tearing the UCL. But the 49ers are back in Philadelphia. Brock Purdy, isn't it phenomenal? That's where he tore his UCL, and now he's back as the league's top-rated quarterback. It's like a bionic man, even better after his injury than before, and maybe better in a way that feels pressure in the pocket, which would have saved him from that injury last year. That's key, and I think that we've seen that on tape, and that's translated into the greater efficiency this season for Brock Purdy. Meanwhile, I don't think the Eagles' pass rush is as good as it was last year. They've lost some depth there. They were struggling a bit against the run last year, and this year I think it's the same kind of deal. I'm going to have a big analysis of where the fracture points for this Philadelphia team might be, where the 49ers might capitalize on them. That's going to be coming out tomorrow. By the way, today is the last day of our Black Friday sale on The Athletic. Why don't we pop that open and maybe get this article into the description of the story. Boom, right there. I know I've been talking about this one a lot, but you've got $1 a month. It's Cyber Monday, technically. You got $1 a month for the Black Friday weekend into Cyber Monday. So check out the key to Christian McCaffrey's initial success with the 49ers, a young backup named Brock Purdy. Fun story. And I think that it's especially relevant heading into Philly. Remember, the 49ers' only offense last year after Brock Purdy got hurt was Christian McCaffrey on one of the manliest touchdown runs you'll ever see, just bullying his way into the end zone. He would not be denied on that play. He, however, would be denied when he tried to pass the ball later on. People always ask me, who's the actual MVP candidate on the 49ers? Is it Brock Purdy or is it Christian McCaffrey? I would say that Christian McCaffrey is a better player than Brock Purdy, but as far as value to the team, Christian McCaffrey makes life easier. Brock Purdy, as we saw in Philadelphia last season, makes life possible. It's just the nature of the sport. Quarterback is the most important position. All right, I'll answer a couple questions here. 49ers Q&A, go ahead and check out the piece. It is up on the screen. Maybe Mike can toss that into the description. People talking about the tush push. That means the 49ers want to avoid giving the Eagles 3rd and 4th and short situations. Keep them beyond that. That way they can't run that play until the league does something about that legislation-wise. If they do, then that's the best defense for it. Keep the Eagles out of 3rd and 4th and short. Jesse thinks the 49ers will dominate. Do I think that Charvarius Ward will follow Brown around? I'm not sure. I think with Jalen Hurts, you got a running quarterback, much more so than Geno Smith. And whenever you play too much man against a running quarterback, well, you're turning your back to the QB. So I think the 49ers might have to play a little bit more zone in this game. Now, they could run some hybrids to try to take away A.J. Brown, but there's also Devontae Smith. But the thing is, in zone, you're facing the line of scrimmage, so it's a lot easier to take care of that running QB. Jalen Hurts has generated the 3rd most expected points on runs, so the 49ers obviously have to keep an eye out on that. He also has the slowest average snap to release in football. Now, it's not because he's processing slow. It's because he's scrambling back there, buying time, trying to go for the big play. Pretty high air yards numbers. So Jalen Hurts strains your defense to the max. The 49ers are going to have to cover really, really well on the back end, and they're going to have to keep their eye out on potential Jalen Hurts runs. So usually zone is a way to do that. 49ers pass rush has to be disciplined coming home as well. I thought that, you have to be disciplined but disruptive at the same time. Can't just be one or the other, because if you're disruptive but not disciplined, Jalen Hurts will break the pocket. He'll run for a long way. But if you're like the Bills for a lot of yesterday's game, if you're disciplined but not disruptive, if you're easing off on the pass rush just to stay in your lane, well, then you're going to give Jalen Hurts way too much time to throw, and that's not going to work either. So it's going to take an all-pro effort from maybe the greatest 49ers defensive line of all time. Feliciano over McKivitz? I do not know. Oh, no. Oh, McKivitz? No. Sorry. Feliciano over Burford is the question. McKivitz is a tackle. Feliciano is a guard. So Feliciano and Burford, I think Kyle Shanahan wants to platoon those two at guard. The 89 49ers did some platooning of their offensive linemen, and it was a good way to keep guys fresh, especially if you weren't sure who might be the better player at the position, or if you had a younger guy that you wanted to give more seasoning, less exposure in a game. So I think that it's might be the same thing as last year. Remember the 49ers last season saw Spencer Burford and Daniel Brunskill platoon at right guard. Are the 49ers clicking in all three phases of the game right now? Well, I think the special teams got a lot better down the stretch against Seattle after the initial mishap. I think the defense is clicking and the offense is clicking. They've got to put it all together on a singular Sunday. 49ers have yet to deliver a positive EPA score in all three phases of the game in a single game. They were just barely in a negative against Seattle last week. So the 49ers, I believe, I mean, they're clicking in two phases and they're almost clicking in that third, but they still have a little bit of a way to go. Smash that like button while you all are here. Lane Johnson is going to be day-to-day this week. Obviously, that's big news for the Eagles, missed with the groin injury, but the update was that he's not ruled out early in the week. They're going to monitor that over the course of the week. Reddick will line up against both sides, but yes, he does like to line up against the right tackle side. Tyler Kroft, when he was blocking Reddick on the Purdy play last year, was on the right? Reddick came from the right, which is technically not the blind side of Brock Purdy, so he's got to sense that pressure, and he's going to have to step up if Reddick is beating McKivitz around the right side. I will go up the Rocky steps the day after the game if the 49ers get a win. How about that? We'll do something from the Rocky steps the next day. Promise. This is true. You know, as far as gritty wins go, I think the 49ers put themselves into position for a gritty win against Cleveland. Jake Moody missed a kick. I'll keep on talking about it. My prediction is Jake Moody drills a game-winning kick in this game against Philadelphia. Just a prediction. I think it could be the ultimate little 180 coming back from full circle from that disappointing loss to Cleveland. Hell yeah, you got a subscription to The Athletic. Everybody can do it right now. This is the piece. We'll put it in, Mike, if you can, put it in the description, the link right here. Christian McCaffrey's initial success with the 49ers. It's a little training session with Brock Purdy. I just posted the link in the comment section. Cyber Monday deal, $1 a month. Last year, I went to one of the two famous places for a cheesesteak, but it's definitely not the best. Forgot Geno's and Pat's, right? I forgot which one I was at. It was after the game, so I was busy and tired. Ate my cheesesteak. It was okay. Eagles fans were out in the streets. They were happy. It was after I had finished all my writing. Before I went back and did the late night video after that football game. Might have to check out. Well, the problem is that, you know, Mike McGlinchey was from the Philly area, would always talk about Delisandro's, but that place is way out, you know, in the suburbs. So I'm going to have to do something a little bit closer to downtown. You don't want to give Reddick a free release, but I don't think that blocking him with a tight end, if the play call is correct, is a major offense or an offense at all. Kansas City did it multiple times in the Super Bowl, and it worked. So, again, if you go back and look at that play, Brandon Ayuk was coming open, and it could have been an early deep shot for the 49ers, and all Brock Purdy had to do was step up a little bit. And I don't think that Tyler Kroft was totally hopeless on the block either. I thought that he at least forced Reddick to redirect. Brock Purdy will be the first to tell you he needed to improve his pocket presence. He needed to improve his ability to step up and manipulate defenses from within the pocket. And he's done that. He's improved since that injury. So I don't think Kyle Shanahan's going to shy away from calling plays that have worked against this Eagles defense. The way to handle the Eagles' tush push is to avoid it. 2nd and 10 is the big goal. Get that 1st and 10 incompletion, no gain, stuff a run. And then on 2nd down, don't give up more than 5 or 6 yards. Sets you up for a 3rd and much, much longer, right? You can't just sneak it if you're the Philadelphia Eagles. How many yards the 49ers have on offense if Buffalo had over 500? I don't measure it by yards. I think efficiency is a much better way to measure it. Some game situations will dictate that you have to go up and down the field with the yardage. Sometimes your defense plays better, so you don't have to go up and down the field with the yardage. You're just trying to control the football, play efficient ball in that regard. So you can have a 350 to 400 yard game that is more efficient than a 500 plus yard game. I do think the 49ers have a chance to be really, really efficient, though, against the Philadelphia Eagles. Will Beal see any time? I'm not sure, and we're going to ask Kyle Shanahan about this on Wednesday. There are a couple benefits here. A, Beal might be able to play special teams because he's 247 pounds and he runs a 4.40, which is wildly impressive. He's got nice long arms as well. So the 49ers special teams might have a nice athletic reinforcement there. B, if they didn't activate him today, his practice window would have been shut. The 3 weeks were up, which would have meant that he can't practice. So now, even if Beal's not active for these games, he can still practice. You're making more out of that redshirt year for him. And he's one of those raw players who I think definitely has needed some time to make sure that he's getting better for next season. The 49ers' biggest weakness when facing the Eagles is the 49ers' biggest weakness when they face anybody. I think their pass protection. I think the 49ers are on their way to eliminating defensive weaknesses at the very least. That slot cornerback position, boy, looking a lot better now that you have Ambry Thomas playing well on the outside, and that's got to continue, obviously. Diamond Lenore getting used to playing that slot receiver. I think that the 49ers' second edge rusher position has gotten a lot better with Chase Young in there. So now you just look at the pass protection, namely center, right guard, right tackle. And that could be an issue against Philly. These guys can rush the passer. So Brock Purdy is the only quarterback in the NFL with elite productivity despite having a shoddy offensive line, below average pass blocking rate scores. So Brock Purdy has to continue doing his thing to overcome the pass protection. How do the 49ers plan to address Hurts's running ability? Disciplined pass rushes. You want to rush with your hair on fire, but you also have to have your head on a swivel. You got to be aware, and you've got to make sure that you rush as a unit. There was a play where Javon Hargrave got a sack in this past game that I thought was really set up by what Chase Young did. And then you saw Chase Young put his arms up in the air in celebration. So he enjoyed being part of the effort to get the sack, even though he didn't notch the sack himself. You got to rush as a team, and I think you're going to have to play some zone. And it's going to have to be smart matchup zone on the back end because zone keeps your eyes on the quarterback. If you're playing too much man without a spy, Jalen Hurts is going to take off. If you play man and you add a spy, well, that spy is one less defender. It's not as bad of an idea to run a spy in a normal situation as it was for Auburn to run it against Alabama from the 31 on 4th down. That was a true wasted defender. But I don't think the 49ers, I think they want to keep the numbers as 11 on 11 as possible in this game. Philly, 32nd in the league against tight ends. I mean, Philly, they don't have good coverage again in the middle part of the field. The intermediate part of the field for Philly is, I think they're giving up a 95.8 QBR, which is really damn high. That's near perfect. So we're talking in between the hashes, 10 to 20 yards downfield. It's because their linebackers aren't good in coverage. That's the weakness of this defense. I think it's because, two, they don't have a good run defense for when they're out leveraged on the run. They rank number 17 in defense, run defense EPA. So that allows offenses to set up nice play action against them. I will say, though, even though Philadelphia has given up a lot of completions over that middle of the field, where Purdy has been the most efficient quarterback in football, Philly is also good at stopping yak. They're the third best team at stopping yards after the catch because they're tackling well this year. The 49ers are number 1 in stopping yak. Philly is number 3. So it's not going to be a cakewalk even if you do complete those passes over the middle of the field. It's going to be really interesting to see if the 49ers, who are the league's leading yak offense, can continue to generate those yards after the catch against the league's third leading yak defense. Would you say the rainy weather would favor the Eagles more so than the Niners? I remember Purdy not throwing too well in the rain. I think it always benefits the underdog, and the 49ers are the favorite in this game. So I know Purdy didn't throw all too well in the rain against Cleveland. I don't think that Jalen Hurts opened the game yesterday throwing all too well. Josh Allen seemed to have a big advantage in that regard. So when you're the favorite, you just want clear weather and you want everything to play according to the realities that made you the favorite. So I think that could help Philadelphia more, about a 50% chance of rain right now. I do think the D-line is now better with Hargrave, Chase Young, a healthy Kinlaw, and Randy Gregory. How many sacks will the 49ers get? Well, I'll tell you what, they've got 15 over the past 3 weeks. They've been averaging 5 a game. So how many sacks do you think they'll get? If they get 5, they're cooking. Jalen Hurts has been sacked 29 times this year. He's been sacked more than the league average because he holds onto the ball a lot. Sacks are there to be had, even though that offensive line is rated really good in pass protection. Hurts has been taken down in the backfield. He's also been explosive, though, throwing downfield. So it's both sides of the defense are going to have to perform for the 49ers. That's coverage and rush. They're going to have to be cohesive. They're going to be strained to the limit. Akshay doesn't like the 49ers run D, still doesn't like it, but they have been better, about number 12 over the past 3 weeks. And I think that's good enough to have some fun with the pass rush as opposed to number 28 where they were before. This is a good point. The Eagles D might be worn out after 92 snaps in overtime against Buffalo. I'm not going to give out my final score prediction because I don't have one yet until Saturday. So stay tuned for that. You know, there are a lot of questions. Will Ward be able to contain Brown? Remember last season, Charvarius Ward and Diamondo Lenore allowed a combined 2 catches for 16 yards against A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. They were really damn good last year, the 49ers' 2 top corners. So people forget that because Brock Purdy got hurt, and obviously the 49ers defense didn't get any offensive help, and the defense committed a bunch of penalties. They lost their cool. There was a lot of pressure on them with those personal fouls. But only 2 combined catches given up by Charvarius Ward and Diamondo Lenore. Might the 49ers use some 5 lineman fronts this week? It's possible. It's possible they've been holding some stuff in the holster for the Eagles that they haven't shown all too much of it yet. They haven't shown all too much of the 5-man fronts. They used it to set a tone against Jacksonville. Maybe they're going to use it to set a tone against Philadelphia. Force them to not run. Get that run game, the handoff run game to DeAndre Swift out of their minds. Put a lot more pressure on Jalen Hurts, who's been sacked 29 times this year. I think this is a good take. The Eagles gave up 505 yards in the rain. This is the number 17 defense, all right, up to 14 now. It's a mediocre defense so far this year per DVOA that has also given up a lot on the ground, efficiency-wise. Number 17 in the league on the ground. Yeah, I wouldn't count on knowing the weather until around Wednesday or Thursday. And probably even then, we will not know for sure. Cyber Monday deal, $1 a month. This is in the description of the article. So go ahead and check it out. Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, $1 a month for The Athletic. Dave sees only scattered showers. So maybe the forecast is clearing up. I'm going to look at it really fast right now. Philadelphia 10-day forecast. Sunday, yeah, I see showers. I see 60% chance of precipitation on Sunday. So it's not like this. Yesterday it was 100%. It was coming down for Philadelphia and Buffalo. It does look a little bit better this coming Sunday, and it looks a little bit warmer, 51 degrees instead of the mid 40s. What do I think of Reddick's comment to the media after the game? Well, we could play it one more time, can't we? Let's do it. The talking has begun.
You guys got the 49ers next. I know you just got done playing, but you know they did a lot of talking in the offseason about what happened in the NFC Championship game last year. How much of that has stayed in the back of your mind ahead of the next week?
You know, as this season been going on, not much. Talk is cheap. You know, they get to come back in the link. There was a lot of boo-hoos last year, a lot of crying, a lot of what if, a lot of this, a lot of that. They get a chance to come back in here, line that up and prove it again.
I didn't think they were all too controversial. I mean, yeah, the 49ers weren't happy with the Brock Purdy situation last year. I do have to point out that the Eagles weren't happy about the turf and the Super Bowl after they lost, and they talked about that for months. So, I mean, that's going to happen in the NFL. You're disappointed. You think that something would have gone differently with a changed variable. You talk about said variable. I don't think that it was all that inflammatory from Hassan Reddick. I mean, he's right. The 49ers have a chance to prove it again. He didn't say they won't prove it. He said they have a chance to prove it again. If anything, I think that Reddick is being careful with his words because he knows that the 49ers are damn good. He knows that the 49ers are the first road underdogs against the 10-1 team in NFL history. Since the NFL-AFL merger, there hadn't been anything like this. The 49ers are up to 2.5-point favorites against Philly. How about that? 2.5 points. It's crazy. It opened up at 1.5, and, you know, the 49ers have the number 1 offense. Philly's got the number 14 defense. 49ers have the number 8 defense. Philly's got the number 4 offense. But the 49ers defense has been playing at about, let's say, number 3 level over the course of the past 3 weeks after they picked up Chase Young. So the 49ers have edges, if you look at it that way, on both sides of the ball, bigger when they're on offense versus Philly's defense. Now, Philly, they've been good on special teams this year, much better than the 49ers. So that is a potential fracture point. 49ers can't give up big plays on special teams. They gave up one against the Seahawks. It cost them 3 points. Thankfully for them, Darrell Luter Jr., the rookie, made the rundown tackle on that kick return. Robert Beal Jr. activated for the 49ers. If the 49ers win on Sunday, will Brock continue to get hate and disrespect? I think that's part of the nature of playing QB in the NFL. There seem to be people who have their minds made up on Brock Purdy because they think that because he got drafted late, he can't possibly be good. We know those people are wrong, but if their minds are made up, their minds are probably made up. Now, I do think there are a lot of people whose minds aren't made up. And if the 49ers do win in Philadelphia, you will see the narrative change. You will see Brock Purdy be the MVP leader in the betting market if the 49ers can win in Philly. This game is going to have big time ramifications for a week. What are we? Week 13? For a week 13 game, it's going to have huge ramifications. It's the same week as when the 49ers played Miami last year. Garoppolo went down and Brock Purdy took over. That was at Levi Stadium. I think Shanahan will be more watchful with suspicious catches and actually throw the challenge flag. I hope he's learned from that mistake. That cost the 49ers a chance last year. Because if he would have correctly challenged that Devontae Smith catch, the 49ers would have gotten the ball back, and I don't think that Philly would have been rushing as aggressively as they were when they hurt Brock Purdy, because they wouldn't have had a lead against the 49ers. It's all about playing these games downhill, and Kyle Shanahan really dropped the ball by not challenging that 4th down play to Devontae Smith early in the NFC Championship game. Jason's worried about field goals. Well, no worries. I'm predicting that Jake Moody's going to make one to win it at the end. Of course, they're going to need to limit Swift. You got to slow the run game. But the good news is, past 3 games, the 49ers have done well enough in that regard after really struggling at the start of the season. All right, everybody, 35 minutes. It's all good. Thanks for joining. That's your 49ers update. They've activated Robert Beal. I'm going to roll. I got some stuff to do. We'll talk to you a little bit later tonight. 49ers Eagles week is underway. We'll talk soon.